Welcome to Chok Muay Chats, episode 31, the roadside edition. Once again, we're here at a coffee shop outside a construction site here in Lat Phrao in Bangkok. I'm sitting beside a very special guest this morning, Chok Muay vocalist and tour manager of a couple of big metal bands and bands in the alternative scene, but also an owner of a gym in Melbourne. Welcome, Sam Crocker.
Thanks for having me.
Now, if you like this episode, of course, before we start, like, subscribe, share amongst your friends. Also, share amongst your friends. Tell everyone. The more, the merrier. Now, Sam, let's get straight into the nitty and gritty. I mean, I've told you that I'm a big fan of your music, but we'll talk a little bit more about Muay Thai. Can you tell us how you got into Muay Thai?
I kind of got into it I had a couple of times. I got into it when I was 12, but hated every aspect of it then. Like I got into it like a really old school kind of gym that was in the small town where I was living in Tito in New Zealand. First session was get driven out to the country, like 3 kilometers, just dropped off and then told to run back to the gym. I had no idea what was going on. Pulled up at the gym as the class was ending. It was just like, I'm never going back again. But always wanted to go and kind of give it another go. Like movies like Bloodsport, Mortal Kombat, all the Jean-Claude Van Damme stuff had me hooked from a young kid. So I came back like, I guess at a later age. Antagonist had just toured Southeast Asia when we were in Thailand. And as soon as we got to Thailand, I was just like, oh, I need to, it's crazy that I've come here without any training and don't have the opportunity to train. So I told myself as soon as I go home, I'll try again. So yeah, went back, got involved with a guy called Richie Hardcore back home. Was a friend at the time, became a very close friend over the journey, and yeah, he got me into it.
If you guys don't know, Richie Hardcore, he's a trainer in New Zealand who talks a lot about the connection between sport and mental health and social development through combat sports programs. So definitely go check out his stuff. Really great work that he's doing over there in New Zealand, basically Australia's cousin. That's what I say anyway. After going to Southeast Asia, finding your love for Muay Thai, you went back to New Zealand. Were you training in New Zealand very much, or?
Yeah, I got back into it. Like I fell in love with it like straight away. As soon as I got back into New Zealand, Richie was just doing PTs at the time. He was still an active fighter. And I was just like, as soon as I did my first PT, I was like, can I come back tomorrow? And he's just like, oh, yeah, but it's kind of expensive. So I was like, how many people can I bring to make it cheaper? And it's just like, oh, it's the same price no matter how many people you bring. So for a time there, I guess that most of my friends in the Auckland hardcore scene were all training together, and we kind of like started a little gym under Richie. And then he kind of pulled his other PTs, and then it's quite a lucky position because Richie he saw how keen I was, and he just kind of dragged me along to his normal like fighter trainings, and my entry to the sport was getting beaten up by some of New Zealand's finest, which I'm very grateful for. But it's something I couldn't shake. As soon as I got into it, like I just kind of connected with it straight away. The first few years in between touring, I was just in the gym every day, off tour. Yeah.
Now, how do you balance your love for Muay Thai and being a musician and an artist? How do you balance that? I mean, you're on tour most of the year with bands like the Amity Affliction. How do you balance that lifestyle of trying to keep healthy, but like I've been on tour with bands before, and that life is rough, man. Like lack of sleep, you got pretty poor access to training, you got poor access to nutrition. How do you balance that? Because that's a tough one.
I think that's been a journey the whole time. Like since I started doing Muay Thai, that's been trying to find that balance, and it's been really, really hard. So like at the start, that's kind of, I fell out of love of Muay Thai because of this, because I'd go on tour, couldn't train, couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, and then I'd come back and start again. So I'd go through this journey of having like a fight camp, and then not being able to fight because, the opponent pulling out, and then you know, like everyone else in the gym would have the opportunity to fight on the next card, like maybe 2-3 weeks away, whereas I'd be going on tour and have to start from scratch again. But as touring's progressed, I don't know, I've found gyms around the place, some gyms in UK, a couple of spots in America. There's a gym every city in Australia that I frequent, which is awesome to kind of have that community around the world to pop in on. But it's still so hard. Go away for 5 weeks, sleeping in a bus, kind of, eating what's kind of provided to you is, especially in America, is not great. So it's still a journey trying to find that balance, but just getting it done, like going to a gym, trying a little bit, doing the bare minimum every day does help get through it, but it's still an active process of trying to figure out the best balance for it.
Yeah, we was speaking a little bit last night when we went to dinner about some of the similarities between hardcore and Muay Thai. One of the things I was thinking about last night, there's kind of similarities in terms of like the community. Like there's a bit of a DIY ethic in Muay Thai in terms of like shows and friends coming to support shows. You know, I remember back in the days of Sydney, the Siam to Sydney shows, everybody at the gym would help out. You know, very much like that kind of same ethos, the community ethic. Do you think there's any more similarities between sort of hardcore and Muay Thai in terms of that?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think the community in Muay Thai is really strong. Each gym has a kind of a strong network as soon as you go in. As soon as you go in consistently for a little bit, everyone will kind of get to know you and support you, check in on you as you're going, offer help, and then that kind of extends outside of the gym as well after a certain amount of time. So there's like this really nice network that you kind of become a part of, like a support network, so to speak. But I think, you know, hardcore has this, you know, it has depth to it, it has substance to it. You're a part of a culture. And I think as opposed to other sports, Muay Thai has a culture that you just fall in love with straight away, and it has a much greater depth and substance than, you know, other sports do. And then once you kind of tap into that, it's really appealing.
Our coffee's arrived from Black Hills, Bangkok Slow Bar Coffee. So if you're ever in Lutprell, definitely go check them out. Sam was just telling me the real story behind how he actually started Muay Thai. And yeah, often this is one of the things about podcasting. You think about things and you're trying to put them in a articulate manner, but sometimes the real story is the best way to put them. So so how did you actually?
I think my problem is this: I tend to rant and ramble, so I try to like
I
cut
do that
myself
as well.
off for
Yeah.
conciseness. But basically, so when the same time I went to Thailand with the band in Southeast Asia, this was 2009. We just finished the tour in Australia, and we were in Perth. We're staying at a friend's place, a band called Break Even from Perth. It's a really, really good hardcore band from a long time ago. Soundwave was happening at the time, an old music festival that used to happen in Australia. So we all went to Soundwave. I was drinking at the time, don't drink anymore. I was very happy, few drinks in the sun, enjoying myself, enjoying the music. And as I was wandering back to our friend circle, an altercation seemed to break out between one of our friends in Perth and a stranger. And basically our stranger was kind of getting it handed to him a little bit. So me thinking that I was a capable young man from New Zealand, had a couple of scraps in school and things before, thought I was a confident man, could come over and defuse and save the situation. Ended up on the ground shortly after with all my friends asking if I was okay, and it kind of came as like a rude shock to me that I had no idea what I was doing. And then entered into the Southeast Asian tour with a massive black eye on my face and just feeling very sorry for myself and realizing that one, I had kind of no idea how to hold my own or do anything like that. And two, then I was entering Thailand and again had that realization of like, this is what I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to train in martial art, always been interested in Muay Thai. And here I am with a black eye after getting beaten up in front of all my friends. And I was just like, now's the time to kind of to take it. Now's the time to have a chance when I get back. But yeah, it was pretty embarrassing walking around. We have all these photos from our time in Southeast Asia. My eyes are like this big. I was just like, he must have had a ring on. Nah, the dude just
That's one of those.
just slammed me.
That's one of those things as a bloke. Before your frontal lobe develops, you always think you're more durable than you actually are.
Yeah, I was not durable. I was anti-durable, negative durable.
Negative durable.
Yeah.
The hardcore scene, you know, growing up in it myself, the whole kind of scene is built on trying to be a tough guy. But I felt like I thought I was a tough guy in hardcore, but once I stepped into the gym back when I started training, I knew I wasn't I was not near as tough as I thought. And still, I mean, I'm not, having been put through the ringer in some very hard fights in my career, I'm still definitely not as tough as I think I am. Training with some absolute monsters back in the day. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think the journey through hardcore was, and I think for a lot of people still is, you tend to enter hardcore at an age when you're trying to find yourself. Everyone's trying to find themselves, and they were kind of attracted to this kind of like outsider community, a place where you really feel like you can kind of change the world, and there's a lot of political ideology, a lot of people with the same ethics, and yeah, it is a nice place for growth, but compared to Muay Thai, and yeah, and you do what you're saying about the tough guy persona, especially back then. Back then, that was a huge part of the scene. That kind of like that big ego, like faux big angry ego type
2010s
thing.
that era.
Yeah,
you know,
I think that's gone a lot. A lot of that's gone, which is a good thing. But yeah, entering into Muay Thai, which I like about that, which I guess is kind of similar to that what you're speaking of, is that you can't front in Muay Thai, which is what I love about it. You can't go and say, hey, I'm a really good fighter, I do this, I do that, I go to the gym every day, and you walk into the gym and you can't even skip properly, or you can't shadow or throw a punch, or you know what I mean, you've got no balance or rhythm or anything like this. You can't just say it, you know, like your actions kind of speak for you, and that's what I love about that the sport, you know.
Yeah, it exposes people pretty quickly. I think it's one of those sports that exposes frauds very, very quickly. And it's one of those things that even in the industry, like from the industry point of view, frauds or people with bad intentions get exposed very quickly.
Yeah.
It's a very close-knit community. And that's what I love about it as well, is that everybody's close-knit and we look out for each other. But when there's somebody time and time again comes in that they think they can make money out of it, which there's more money being injected into the sport, but there's not enough money to take away from it, if you know what I mean. There's nothing to really gain from it at this point in time. So for those who are listening who want to try and sink their hooks into it and take, it's just not going to be like that. You're going to have to give to really be able to reap the rewards of what we sow from it. Now, moving on from getting into Muay Thai, I remember you talking about you had a couple of fights before you came to Thailand.
Yeah, that's right.
Did you fight as an amateur in New Zealand or? Yeah.
Yeah, I had a couple of fights as an amateur in New Zealand. I'm not sure what the rules and regulations are these days. I had like a non-padded fight, but it's still an amateur.
Yep.
Back there, I guess it was like because it was only 2-minute rounds.
Yep.
And then outside of that, I was just very, very unlucky with my timing. I trained for fights, and in between my like kind of heavy touring schedule, things just wouldn't line up. Or if they did, I'd be training for a fight, and then the amount of times like an opponent pulled out was just yeah, it's just really hard to kind of get a roll on, and it made me get very disinterested. Got a bit disillusioned by it all at the start, but yeah, like I said, at the start, like the first like kind of three years, I was obsessed training every day, and because I was so lucky to have Richie, I was able to train kind of like at a pretty intensive level straight off the bat. I was terrible. I was like going and sparring like some guys who are really, really good back home, and I couldn't even kick properly. But yeah, I learned to block pretty quick. But yeah, I still loved it. But yeah, the touring schedule and shows weren't really lining up for me at the very start.
And then moving from there, you started Foundation Muay Thai in Melbourne.
Yeah.
What was the inception behind that?
Well, that was a kind of just a series of events, right? So I'd always stayed training Muay Thai, like since 2009. Was kind of coming to Thailand regularly to do fight camps, training in different gyms around the world, and you know it was awesome to kind of have that different connection, that different learning, like you know people training in Germany and Austria and UK and America and stuff is really cool to kind of get that different style of teaching, good or bad. It's nice to know both ways, you know. So it's always been there, and I always kind of had a dream to open up a gym, but my dream was more to open up a gym, small town New Zealand, and do something there so I could kind of like give back to a smaller community and hope to provide like a safe pathway, basically just a safe space that people can kind of like learn and grow in. But once COVID hit in Australia, at the time I was in Sydney, and I was lucky enough to be able to stay training through all of that time, and I was training at SRG in Sydney.
Yep.
Shout out SRG, great gym.
Shout out to Lewis and Ching over there.
Very, very good gym. And that just, brought my love back 1,000%. It was always there, but I was able to train every day and at the level I wanted to train again. And then so after restrictions eased in Melbourne, I went back over to Melbourne and started training all my friends in a park, and then had an opportunity to kind of like hang up a couple of bags inside another gym. So went there and was able to do some classes. And then from there, COVID hit again. That gym, we're going in and out of COVID. That gym ended up going into liquidation because of COVID. But I had an opportunity to move into another space and just decided, like, now's the time. And our gym was very similar to how I started out with Richie. It was just like me and all my friends, kind of musicians, tattooists, bunch of kind of like misfits all coming together to find a kind of healthier lifestyle. And then, as we moved into these different spaces, other people jumped in, had a trainer come on board, and it kind of just grew exponentially from there. And my goal with it was to really start an entryway into Muay Thai. Called it Foundation because we really wanted it to be a learn the basics, do the basics well, and kind of outgrow us and go to another gym, but just try and show people Muay Thai and all the good it can do for you, and the other aspects of your life, like the discipline and everything.
I thought it came from the name of the band.
Well, it makes for good merch ideas as well.
Exactly. So you've built that gym up now where it's pretty self-sufficient,
Yeah.
Self-sufficient, allowing you to do all the tour management for some pretty big alternative bands. Now you're semi-based over here, based back there, based in America, on sort of in between places at the moment. Now you've been training with Superbon over at Superbon's gym in Upper Lutprow, town in town, that area. How's that experience been?
Oh, it's been awesome. I was lucky that the gym I was training at in Melbourne, Eight Blade Warriors, Superboy is Superbon's brother. So Boy told me that to come visit him when he was in Bangkok, when I was in Bangkok, November
Yep.
2023, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I went over and saw him and introduced me to everybody. And it was insane. I walked into this gym and he's just like, oh, this is not Nong O, this is Pitch to Nong, this is Bon. And I'm just walking around being like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a great gym. Lots of really good pad holders, training partners. Yeah, it's made a lot of really good friends there as well. So yeah.
Now they've taken you from there to the home of Muay Thai and my favourite stadium, Rajadamnern Stadium. Recently you fought there.
Yeah.
Run us through that experience.
Well, I was just like, I've been trying to get a fight since April last year. You know what I mean?
Forever. We've been talking for ages, and it always seems like you're trying to get a fight. And
I've been waiting.
Finally, man, you got the chance.
To
fight at the world's oldest Muay Thai stadium.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things. Like, good things take time, right? And
Yeah.
I was starting again to almost get disillusioned with everything. Of my schedule just is not appealing to Muay Thai. Like, I'm still going away. So I'm living here now, but I still go away on tour. So I'll be here for 2 months, go away for a month, come back. It's really, really hard to go away, live in a bus for 5 weeks, sleeping in a bus, moving every night, eating burgers, and then coming back here and just jumping straight into like 100 kicks type situation. But yeah, came back after 5 weeks off in Australia, and the first day back, they're like, "Do you want to fight?" And I was like, "Of course." So you can fight in 3 weeks, and I'm like, "Sweet, let's go!" Like after 5 weeks off. and I'm an old man, as you can probably see in the video now. Definitely not as young as I used to be. So like entering into it, I was just like, oh,
you've aged well, my friend. You've aged well.
Thank you, sir. But yeah, entering into it, I was just like, whatever. I'm gonna train to the kind of the wheels fall off type situation. I'm going to the fight with, if I come out needing to be in a wheelchair is because my bone's been broken because they're too old. Like, let's go. So just kind of like. Jumped into it, and I also thought that I was probably going to be fighting somewhere smaller to start off for like kind of a warm up, because it's been a long time since I fought in Australia in April 2024 and broke my foot in the first round. Finished the fight, but had a long time off since then. So, and before that fight in April was like 10 years, I think, since my previous fight in New Zealand. So still kind of like a little bit rusty there. But yeah, trained hard, jumped in. Luckily, I had a pretty significant height advantage on this guy and was able to use my range and keep him out and stop him in the third round, which was the craziest experience.
How was his hands? Because I remember talking to you, and he actually had a tattoo of an RPG, and he
had a bazooka on his arm.
Yeah, I said he's got rocket hands, and he looked like he hit heavy. I mean, that's one of the thing about the Iranian fighters. They hit very heavy. They got solid hands, and this guy, he was built like a brick shithouse.
Yeah, no, he's a scary looking guy. As soon as I saw him, I was just like, okay, this is, I knew it was going to be a fight, right? But definitely, as soon as I saw him, I was just like, this is going to be a scrap for sure. But I was able to kind of keep him out for the most part. I started attacking his leg. I couldn't get my range bail for my kicks. But my leg kicks were working well, and my hands were finding the mark. I was able to kind of avoid. He wasn't really able to set up his punches very well. I don't think a clean one landed on me. But yeah, he's very unorthodox. I'm not sure his exact style. He's kind of switching stance a little bit, like lots of overhands coming in. But yeah, it was good. There's obviously a lot to learn from, as I'm sure everyone takes every time they fight. Like, even though I was able to knock him out, I'm still like, I wish I did it earlier. I wish I did it this other way. But yeah, it was good.
Now, just closing this quick chat up, what advice would you give to people about trying to choose the right gym or trying to choose the right pathway to get a fight here in Bangkok?
Boy, it's a hard one. I think everyone's different, right? Everyone's different, has different needs. I think the biggest thing is finding a community that works best for you. For me, I excel in a community. I think Muay Thai it's just you in the ring, but I definitely am under the impression and the rhetoric that Muay Thai is a team sport. You're built in the gym, you're a community, you give back to the community, they give to you. It's all a sharing process. And yeah, you know, walking in to a fight, you want to have that support. You want to feel like the entire kind of gym and community's in your corner. So I'd say, like you've said to me a bunch of times, you got to shop around some gyms at the start and really find where you fit in. So yeah, try a few different gyms out and see what works best for you. And as long as you kind of have those friendships and stuff, you can kind of push through, because there will be ups and downs. I think anywhere, no matter where you go, you'll get ups and downs and frustrations. But
Yeah.
hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, thanks for your time, and I'll see you another day. This is Chok Muay Chats, episode 31. Please like, share, subscribe, all that jazz, and see you on the flip side, available on YouTube and Spotify for another one. Cheers.
Peace.